Good evening. I'm Nisa Petrilli.
I'm Jay Kaplan.
I'm Steve Ferguson.
And I'm Sean Roman.
And this is the On the Sports Lines 2016 Pigskin Preview. Labor Day means the end of summer and the return of football on college campuses and in NFL stadiums across the country. Tonight, we'll preview the upcoming season for the Jets and Giants, plus a look at some of the intriguing NFL teams of 2016. We'll also give you our college football Final Four and preview an opening week that is loaded with high-profile matchups. As always, we want to hear from you, so email us at fanspeak@onthesportslines.com, send your tweets to @onthesportslines, and your posts to facebook.com/onthesportslines. The Jets kick off their 2016 season hosting the defending AFC North champion, Cincinnati Bengals. With Muhammad Wilkerson and Ryan Fitzpatrick re-signed, two of Gang Green's most important players are back in the fold, and they'll need them both as they go from playing the NFL's easiest schedule to the 7th toughest. Jay, what Gang Green storyline are you going to be following this season?
Can Ryan Fitzpatrick do it again? He put together one of the best seasons by a Jets quarterback in a very long time. Got paid after a fashion. I'll be looking to see if he can repeat the positives and redact the negatives. Positives are obvious. 3,900 plus passing yards, 31 touchdowns for an offense that was in the top half of the league in yards and points scored. Wide receivers Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker return. There's the addition of Matt Forte. Fitz has no shortage of playmakers to get the ball to on offense, and they should be good or better than they were last season if, and the if is the negatives. And there's one minor one and one major one. The minor one is his completion percentage, which was 59.6, ranked 29th out of 35 quarterbacks who threw enough passes to qualify for the passing title. Fitz needs to get that up about 5 points into the mid-60s. The major one is the interceptions. Now, 15 overall is not a bad number, but 6 of them were thrown in the fourth quarter of 7-point games, which was tied for the most in the NFL. If he cuts that in half or better, it will go a long way.
Wow. Well, for me, I'm going to be looking at the difference that Matt Forte will make at the running back position. Chris Ivory was a great running back for the Jets. We were very fortunate to have this guy. He was a pounder, a great running back, a great blocker, and always got the tough yardage for us.
Yep.
Matt Forte is more of a slashing type runner, and I think my question with Matt Forte is not so much his durability, but his toughness picking up the third down on facing the New England Patriots, who we all know their defense. It doesn't matter what they're ranked, they will be tough. Even the Dolphins' defense is fairly tough compared to what he's been used to in the other division where he was with the Bears. And so my question definitely is, can he, one, stay healthy, and two, really be the force he's been in the league? This is a guy who's had 1,000-yard-plus seasons, 5 of 8 years in the pros, so that speaks volumes to his ability. Now we'll see how the Jets actually use him.
Yep. Hopefully they use him correctly. He's a 2-3 down back.
Absolutely.
You know, the Jets really impressed last year. They played with a lot of heart. They came in second place in their division. Winning 10 games in the NFL is nothing to scoff at.
Nope.
No.
And what they have to do, first of all, is really take advantage of the fact that first-place team is going to be missing their quarterback for the first 4 games.
Yep.
Yes.
They got to get out of the gate quick. Also, importantly, what I'm looking at is how strong is that defense going to be compared to their 2015 impressive effort. Darrelle Revis at about, 33, 34 years of age right now. Can he be that impact player he was in years past? Or has his age showed in 2014? That's the question that I'm primarily looking at. I want to see how he starts off the season in the first few games to see where his energy level and his skill level is at.
Well, a lot of people are of the opinion that while granted he has lost a step, his technique will more than make up for it. But it'll be interesting to see.
It will be.
Well, the Giants kick off their 2016 season visiting their NFC East divisional rival, the Dallas Cowboys. New head coach Ben McAdoo says the G-men are in an evolution, not a revolution. The hope is that a revamped defense can keep the leads that a top 10 offense gives it. Sean, what G-men storyline are you going to be following this season?
I'm looking at Eli Manning. I mentioned age before. Eli Manning is now in the autumn of his career.
Yes.
Yeah.
At 35 years of age. And even though he's had losing series, his offensive numbers have actually been getting better
Yes.
than he was winning the Super Bowls. He also has a very undersold ability to make the players around him, especially unknown and unrecognizable wide receivers, better. He has a marquee wide receiver now in Beckham entering his third year. So who else behind him is going to step up is a big question. He's going to continue to put up those big numbers. Under McAdoo, who he's very familiar with, having that level of consistency throughout his career in terms of a Kevin Gilbride offense for about 10 years in the Giants organization, then taken over by McAdoo, and that's continuing, I think is going to tremendously benefit Eli Manning. And in that race for a third NFL championship between Roethlisberger and Manning, I think that Eli's on the track to get there first, with the Giants improving their defense so much over the offseason.
We'll see.
Proven he could do it before. I think he's going to do it again. He's going to impress a lot of people this year.
Well, you know, Sean, your point about who's going to step up dovetails nicely with my angle. And what I'm going to be watching is what kind of production will the Giants be getting from Victor Cruz and Sterling Shepard. Now, Shepard's skill set is very similar to what Cruz was like when he first came to the Giants. Shifty, great hands, able to create space. Now, he's still adjusting to how extensive the playbook is, and once that happens, he'll be able to adjust to the difference in speed between the NFL and college, which is significant, and I think that'll enable him to showcase the skills that the Giants expect to get out of him. With coverage is likely to be rolled towards Beckham, Shepard should see enough single coverage to be a factor for Eli. Flip side, Cruz, the fact that he was even on the field in the preseason game against the Jets was an accomplishment all its own for the former Pro Bowler.
Amen.
Now, will he ever get back to being the guy who averaged 130-plus targets, 80 catches, and 1,200 yards as Eli's number one wide receiver? Probably not. But I look at it this way. Even if he's 75 to 85% of what he used to be, that still makes him a very viable third receiver who will likely be in the slot against number 3 cornerbacks where he can make a difference as a chain mover. Ruben Randall and Dwayne Harris combined for 93 catches, 1,193 yards, and 12 touchdowns last season. I will be watching to see if Cruz and Shepard can match that or exceed those numbers. If they can, Sean, I think Eli's going to be a very happy quarterback.
Well, now that all the good news has been exposed, let me talk about the not so good news with the Giants, and that's their defense. Everybody who saw the Giants last year will tell you this defense was the worst in the NFL. When your defense is 31st and you're 6-10, the answer is very clear. This team has to get better defensively, and they spent a ton of money in an effort to do so.
And they used their first-round draft pick on
defense. Eli Apple.
Yep.
You know,
I'm really going to be focused on him.
Oh, sure. And then you look at the fact that they spent money to get Damian Harrison, Olivier Vernon, and Javaris Jenkins. They clearly are trying to upgrade their defense. Steve Spagnuolo, his job will be on the line if this defense doesn't get better. Because last year, they could have easily fired him based on how poorly this team played defensively.
But maybe they just didn't give Coughlin the talent that he needed.
Well, we talked about that. That's on Jerry Reese.
And Jerry Reese is also on the line as well if this doesn't work. Because they've spent a ton of money to get better. So now the question is, if this defense, even if they finish, say, 15th in the league, the middle of the pack, with the offense the Giants have, yeah, they could be a playoff team. But if this defense is miserable, no shot.
And that's a big deal with Cowboys quarterback Romo going down.
Yep, that's an opening the Giants need to take advantage of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, true. Time now to go around the NFL and take a look at 3 teams that have compelling storylines worth keeping an eye on when the NFL kicks off on September 8th. Steve, which team intrigues you the most coming into this season?
You know, as much as I don't like this team, and a lot of you don't like this team either, I have to go with the Dallas Cowboys. When you look at them on paper, this is before Romo got hurt, and he'll be out for 6 to 10 weeks, by the way. You look at them, you see they have Dez Bryant, they still have Jason Witten, and Ezekiel Elliott. Now, this guy, if he turns out to be as good as what they're saying, drafted number 4 by the Cowboys, they will have an extremely potent offense.
He looks good.
He really does. But now that Romo's out, can Dak Prescott, the rookie, step up and do the job? And he looks good in the exhibition season, but when these linebackers are coming after him and blitzing him, let's see how effective he really is. So I think that's the team you have to watch.
Jay, you come up with the questions a lot, and the word intrigue is what intrigued me the most. So in this recent offseason, I've really been surprised at the attention the San Diego Chargers have been getting in terms of their management. Now, they have been criticized for a number of years in terms of their management, in terms of where they eventually want to move, and their handling of rookie Joey Bosa has been severely criticized.
You mean mishandling, right?
Yeah.
The way I was looking at it, I was reading it. My initial reaction was Joey Bosa, as a rookie, never having stepped on the field, should have signed the contract presented to him. From what I read in the reports, it seemed fair to me. It was a question of when he would get certain amount of bonuses, not if he would get them. But then I read about what other GMs were saying, and I mean, I'm just basing it on reporters I don't know, but they were saying that other GMs actually happened to agree somewhat with Bosa's position. When those reports came out, the Chargers quickly reacted and signed Bosa recently. So now they have Bosa, and they're going to also, that'll complement Matt Iteo, who's a solid tackler. I hope they improve somewhat to give Phillip Rivers a little luck in the autumn of his career. So they do intrigue me.
All right.
Okay.
Team that intrigues me is, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I'm sure there will be the usual talk coming out of the NFC about the Seahawks, about the Panthers, the Packers with Jordy Nelson coming back. But, the Arizona Cardinals came into the NFC playoffs last year as the NFC's most complete team before they just flat out imploded against the Panthers. Now, here's the thing. What intrigues me is this is an offense that dropped 489 points on the NFL last year, number 2. They returned every player who caught a pass from Carson Palmer or scored a touchdown last year, which is unheard of for an offense, led by future Hall of Fame wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald. And surprising newcomer running back David Johnson, who his position coach Stump Mitchell thinks could put up a 2,000-yard total season, 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving. Now, a defense that was number 5 in yards allowed, number 7 in points allowed, gets havoc-wrecking safety Tyrann Mathieu back from an ACL injury, and they add former Patriots defensive end Chandler Jones to improve the pass rush. So I think they will make the playoffs. And if they do, I'll be intrigued to see if head coach Bruce Arians learned from last year that a risk-averse strategy doesn't work in the postseason. And I'll be interested to see who shows up. Which version of Carson Palmer? The one who last year had a 104-plus rating in the regular season, or the one who has a career 67 passer rating in the playoffs? The Cardinals will be very intriguing indeed.
I agree, and I'm very excited for the season in general.
You usually are around this time.
College football as well. This year's
Speaking
college
of.
football playoff has the national semifinals being played at the Peach and Fiesta Bowls on December 31st, with the national championship game on January 9th at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. We're going to make our Final Four picks and give you one reason why they might be there and one reason why they might not. Sean, let's start with you. Who's your pick?
I got to go for Ohio State. Last year, I basically presented a great argument on why this team was the most dominant in the last century, which proved to be somewhat wrong. But if it were not for a last-second field goal on a rainy day, they would have been in that playoff and got to face Alabama, which would have been really interesting.
I have no sympathy for you, right?
No, sometimes they get the benefit, sometimes they don't. Now, Ohio State has lost a tremendous amount of their seniors to the NFL, which shows the strength of their program. But they have one of the richest talent pools in the country coming in. And you got to credit Saban and Meyer from Alabama and Ohio State for being able to draw people to these locales that are otherwise not too sexy, if you think about it. So tremendous coaches, tremendous leadership there on both. What I think Ohio State has trouble with is their schedule. Week 3, who are they playing, guys? Oklahoma.
Wow.
That is beautiful. Look who else Ohio State is playing. Penn State, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Michigan. But they do have J.T. Barrett back. No quarterback controversy whatsoever. He was a guy 2 years ago leading Ohio State to putting up like 500 yards a game in offense. I expect them to have a very strong season.
So they're in if they can run the table?
They're in if they get tremendous leadership on offense from J.T. Barrett and on defense from Joey Bosa's younger brother.
That's right.
Nick Bosa, who's coming in and going to get some playing time behind 2 very other talented defensive ends.
They're out if?
Their schedule dooms them. them because it's very difficult this year. The ones I just read starting with that
There
Oklahoma
you go.
game.
All right.
Well, I'm looking at Alabama, and I think Alabama
Can't argue with that.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Alabama is definitely in if they play the kind of defense that Nick Saban's group normally does, which is top-notch defense. But they're definitely out if they can't figure out their quarterback scenario. This team, unlike
Which
any
doomed
other,
Ohio State a little
well,
bit.
yeah, they actually have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 quarterbacks to choose from. 5. And we really don't even know as we get into the USC game which one he's going to go with. You know, rumor has it he may go with anybody from Cooper Bateman to David Cornwell. He may go with Blake Barnett. No one really knows who he's going with. The one thing I'll say for Nick Saban is even when he's had to choose quarterbacks, it still worked out well for him. If you remember, he picked Jake Coker a couple of years.
Yep.
They got to the national championship. They won it. Blake Sims, 2015, no one heard of him. They got into the playoffs. So if they can figure out who their quarterback is and do it for the whole season and not have 2 or 3 guys at the quarterback position, they'll make it.
All right, so they're in if they figure out their quarterback situation. They're out if they
They're
can't?
Out, they're out if they
They're
can't.
out if
Okay.
Ole Miss
Makes
beats.
it real
They're out
easy.
if Ole Miss beats them for a third
There you go.
consecutive
That's
year.
also true.
All right, well, I'm going with last year's national runner-up, the Clemson Tigers, who gave Alabama everything they could handle and then some, losing the national championship game by 5 points.
Right.
Now, they're in if Deshaun Watson is once again the quarterback who threw for over 4,000 yards, rushed for over 1,000, and accounted for 47 touchdowns. The Heisman favorite will not have to do it alone. 1,500-yard running back Wayne Gallman is back, and 4 of his top 5 pass receivers return, as does wide receiver Mike Williams, who missed 2015 with a broken neck bone after putting up over 1,000 yards in 2014. They're out if, now, A, Watson gets hurt. That's the no-brainer. The O-line allowed only 18 sacks in 15 games last season, so repeating that will go a long way. However, they're also out if they don't run the table, especially in the ACC, which this season means beating Florida State in Tallahassee on October 9th, which what could be, if the script holds, a de facto play-in game for one of them to make the Final Four.
Well, you guys already mentioned 2 of my most hated teams, Ohio State and Alabama, and unfortunately, I have to pick another hated team of my own, Florida State. The Noles will be in if redshirt freshman quarterback DeAndre Francois can hold down the fort for the first few weeks until Sean McGuire gets healthy and returns. So the rest of the offense is really, really strong, especially the offensive line, and the defense allowed the 5th fewest points last season. So if they keep that up and they keep playing as well this year, the Noles actually do have a real shot at making the Final Four. The Noles will be out if they lose that game that Jay mentioned to Clemson on October 29th. As he said, that could be a play-in game. I don't see Florida State and Clemson making the Final Four. It's going to be one of the 2, but at this point,
What's ironic is there are several prognostications, several polls have them both making it. Not that I can. I agree. I don't see how that happens.
It's mathematically possible. You know, if there's a bunch of one-loss teams, a lot of stuff can happen. But most likely scenarios.
2 ACC teams, an SEC team, and a Big Ten team. Don't forget about the Big Ten. Last year, 3 of the top 10 teams in the final rankings came from the Big Ten.
Yep.
True.
Wow.
Well, the 2016 college football season kicks off with a bang as Labor Day weekend brings us a plethora of top-tier games. Our panel weighs in with the ones that should be appointment viewing. Jay, which week 1 game is your must-see matchup?
Oklahoma versus Houston. Now, Oklahoma is.
I'm a little surprised by that.
Well,
I'm not.
Here's why. Oklahoma is in the conversation as a possible playoff team, and Houston is a dark horse team that has a lot of college football people intrigued. Quarterback position is a focal point of both offenses. Oklahoma's Baker Mayfield and Houston's Greg Ward are both Heisman candidates.
Yes.
Mayfield put up 3,700 plus yards through the air, 400 plus yards on the ground. 36 touchdowns in the air, 7 on the ground. The Sooners' offense averaged 43.5 points a game. Gets both of his top 2 running backs are back in Perrine and Mixon. They combined for over 2,100 yards. Now the receiving corps lost its star. Sterling Shepard's now a Giant. But the returnees have plenty of depth, so Mayfield has plenty of options. Flip side, Ward is the only player to score 15 touchdowns through both the air on the ground, 17 and 21. And along with Deshaun Watson, he was the only quarterback to throw for over 2,000 and rush for over 1,000. He leads an offense that scored 40 points a game last year, and he's the type of dual-threat quarterback that gives the Sooners fits because we all saw what Watson did to them in the Orange Bowl. Now, Houston may be an AAC team on paper. They are probably, however, the best team outside the Power 5 conferences, and I think they're going to give the Sooners all they can handle. You got high Power 5, because you got ranked teams with college football playoff ambitions. You got high-powered offenses led by Heisman candidate quarterbacks, opportunistic defenses who could decide the game with a one big play. What the hell more could you want?
Good point. Well, I'll be looking at the USC-Alabama game.
That's the big one.
Well, yeah.
That really is.
I mean,
I let him have that one, Sean.
Yeah, you can't all take the same game, so
The most intriguing part about this game to me is the fact that these are two teams that actually have no clue who their starting quarterback is going to be. And that's very unusual. USC for years has always had somebody at quarterback, either sophomore, junior, or senior. And it was Cody Kessler. We had the benefit of seeing him for years. This year, we don't have a clue who their starting quarterback is going to be. The rumor has it that it's going to be a guy named Max Brown. By the way, his statistics, for those who care, 11 for 19 for 143 yards. I don't know what game he did that in, but that's the statistics I saw on this guy. There's another quarterback that USC has. His name is Sam Darnold. They think he's a year or two away. He may be more athletic and more talented than Max Brown, but Max Brown supposedly is the more accurate passer and ready to start. As for Alabama, if you may remember, I mentioned there are not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 different quarterbacks to choose from. And they also have no clue who's going to start. It could be Cooper Bateman, who has the most experience. It could be David Cornwell, who's very athletic. It could be certainly any of the other 3 quarterbacks they have available as well. So the question with them is, do they figure out who their quarterback's going to be? Because we know Alabama plays great defense.
And they're going to run the ball well.
And they're going to run the ball well. And speaking of running, they have a running back named Bo Scarborough, who they claim might even be better than Derrick Henry.
That's saying something.
And yeah, this guy runs a 4.4 in the 40. He's supposed to be dynamite. So USC, who doesn't play great defense and hasn't for the last few years, you guys better tackle, or it's going to be a long day for the Trojans.
Sean?
It's a great pick. Now, this is actually true. The game that I'm going to be watching is Clemson at Auburn. Very intriguing game. A lot of people have big expectations for Clemson. It looks like they're building up to something. Auburn, they were expected to compete for a national championship last year. They had a very rough year, but they are bringing a lot of especially defensive players back. Now, in a lot of polls, they're not even in the top 25.
No.
I think that they're an overlooked team. A lot of prognosticators are also saying that they have the best defense since either some great teams they had in the mid-2000s or the late 80s.
Wow.
So playing at Jordan-Hare Stadium gives them a big bump. They tend to do very well at non-conference night games at Jordan-Hare. Look out for that game and for Auburn to mount a big challenge. Tigers against Tigers.
Well, that music means it's time for the 3-minute warning. Sean, lead us off.
If Colin Kaepernick's plan was to leave football in a blaze of glory and become a social activist, job well done. Otherwise, his decision to sit out the national anthem is self-destructive. First, you have to be relevant enough for people to care about you, and Kaepernick's got that. But you also have to be awesome enough for ownership to stick by you if you take a position antithetical to the majority of the NFL's consumers. Kaepernick just doesn't have that.
Nope.
The 49ers need a quarterback focused on the X's and O's and building team unity. They really can't afford a national distraction. You see, the flag, it can mean all things to all people. So to me, it's too simple to take the road Kaepernick has taken. If you think something is wrong with the United States, and each of us here can find something, you can use your First Amendment freedoms in a more constructive way. Pat Tillman, for example, feeling the direct opposite about the flag, left the NFL and joined the service. Ultimately, if Colin finds himself being nowhere near a stadium where the anthem is played, well, I hope he dedicates himself to his vision of what would make America better.
Ryan Lochte, from fame to infamy to Dancing with the Stars. Remember, prior to the Olympics, we heard all the chatter about the Zika virus, to corruption, to the favelas. Thankfully, all went swimmingly well, especially for the U.S. That is, until Ryan Lochte, 12-time Olympic swimmer, ruined it all by concocting a hellacious, blatant lie, returning from a late-night party, and saying he and his teammates were robbed while being highly inebriated. Could it be he did it for publicity, jealousy of Michael Phelps, or wanting to make Brazil look like a thug country? But all he did was succeed in humiliating America on the world stage.
Yes, sir.
Can someone tell me how, after this debacle, this scandalous fiend will be on the same stage of Dancing with the Stars, one of the best and most revered great athletes and people in former Detroit Calvin Johnson? Maybe this is a case of only in America, but I ask all of you if you're sane, forget watching this disgusting boob. Let this ugly American face the consequences and rot in hell. You are the real Loch Ness Monster.
Most commissioners of professional sports are not well liked, so it's no surprise that a lot of NFL players will not have Roger Goodell on their Christmas card list this winter. But lately, the verbal attacks on Goodell are getting ridiculous. Redskins cornerback Josh Norman and Steelers linebacker James Harrison are the most recent, with Norman calling Goodell a dog, as in, quote, "I get that he makes the owners money, but literally anyone could do that. A dog could. He's a dog in a suit." And Harrison calling the commissioner a crook, as in, if it, meaning the interview the NFL wanted him to have about the Al Jazeera PED report, leads to the hands of that crook, Roger Goodell, he can do whatever he wants. Norman has also called Goodell, quote, "straight horrible," and Harrison previously called Goodell a dictator, a puppet, and other names in the 2011 magazine interviews. Guys, I get it. You're not a fan of the commish. But calling him names over things he does that you don't agree with makes you sound like petulant, temper tantrum throwing children. Does Goodell have too much power when it comes to doling out discipline? Yes. I agree that he should not be judge, jury, and executioner. A, because all that power shouldn't reside with one person, and 2, because he's shown he doesn't really know how to use it very well. But that's how things worked out in the latest CBA. The union had to pick their battles, and player discipline wasn't one of them. You don't like it? Okay, fine. But handle your business like the grown-ass man you claim to be. Put the pressure on your union reps and D. Smith to do better next time. And Josh, I don't mean by calling D. Smith names.
When the Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos line up against the Carolina Panthers on September 8th for a rematch of the big game, it won't be Mark Sanchez taking that first snap. That's right, the quarterback who's succeeding Peyton Manning is Trevor Siemian.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The 2015 7th-round draft pick out of Northwestern kind of came out of nowhere and blew everyone away with his talent, leadership, and readiness. Despite the fact that Siemian only took one snap all last season, and it was a kneel down. Coach Gary Kubiak insists that he's come very far in a short time and earned the right to be the Broncos starter. His teammates say he has a calmness and poise that's comparable to Peyton Manning's demeanor. He did learn from the master all last season. This is a very unorthodox move for a defending Super Bowl winner. The Broncos will be the first defending champs to start a quarterback in the following season opener who has 0 career pass attempts. What this means for Mark Sanchez's career is unknown, but this Siemian kid could have a bright future ahead of him. It'll be fun to see if he's up for the task. For Jay Kaplan, Steve Ferguson, and Sean Roman, I'm Nisa Petrilli. Thanks for spending part of your evening with us. We'll see you on September 15th for another edition of On the Sports Lines. Remember, if you want to see this show again or catch up on any of the ones you might have missed, check us out at youtube.com/onthesportslines and check out our blog at onthesportslines.blogspot.com. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.